It is July 24th, 2025, and we have new information about the Rendlesham Forest incident when U.S. soldiers claim to have seen a UFO in Suffolk, England. This is Inverted World Live. Welcome back, everybody. This is Inverted World Live, and I am your host, Shane Cashman. This is a call-in show for those who don't know. Our phone lines are open. You can give us a call. The link to call in is pinned in the chats on Rumble and YouTube. If you've had a strange story, an encounter with something you just can't explain, we want to hear about it. We've had everything from ghost encounters, UFOs, abductions, cryptids, missing time, sleep paralysis, you name it. We want to hear about it. We will get to phone calls in probably 30 or so minutes. I am joined by Brandon. What's up?
What's up, Shane? What's up, everybody? Welcome back for one more night of madness this week. Let's get weird.
Oh, man. It's a beautiful night here in West Virginia. The skies are clear. It's a little warm.
See, me and Kellen were outside disagreeing with you actually just a minute ago because, remember, I was like, it's actually kind of humid. Then Kellen came outside and he's like, it is not as nice out now as it was like 2 hours ago.
That's hilarious.
Here, so
I guess I like it because I can look up into the sky. It's so clear and see all the spy satellites that are hovering over the property. And there's many. Maybe all the stars are just Lockheed Martin. I don't know. But I love it. I love the hot weather and a clear sky at night. It's wonderful. But, I'm weird like that. So I was looking for UFOs before we came up. Nothing yet, just some planes, allegedly. But I'm sure some of you out there have heard about the Rendlesham Forest incident. It's about a 40-year-old story. And this popped up in my newsfeed today. As I'm looking around for stories, I'm like, why is this story in the news? I'm always asking that. Why all of a sudden is this old story in the news? And it's always new information, a new angle. I guess there's a documentary about it. I saw this in the Daily Mail. So I'm going to pull this up. There's a lot to talk about tonight. We'll see what we get into. Because there's also some new Trump stuff with the Epstein story. The saga continues. We've got things in the Baltic Sea. We've got ghosts. Ghislaine answered questions today with the DOJ. That's what they're telling us. UAP whistleblower situation. But we'll start with this in the UK. Did aliens land outside an American airbase in Suffolk 45 years ago to probe its secret stash of nuclear warheads? Or is the story a fisherman's tale that just gets bigger every time it's told? Clearly, something unusual happened in the early hours of Boxing Day morning in Rendlesham Forest near the twin RAF bases of Bentwaters and Woodbridge that's still being talked about today. Some claim the latter NATO base was visited by UFOs, leading to a meet and greet with silver-suited aliens and American top military brass that was caught on film. Others, as the Mail can exclusively reveal, are convinced the Christmas visitors were interested in a secret nuclear missile stockpile stashed just a few miles from Ipswich, where the good people of Suffolk were obliviously sleeping off their Christmas indulgences. What everyone agrees on, however, is that the full story has never been disclosed until now. A new feature-length documentary, 8 years in the making, reignited the decades-old Rendlesham Forest UFO mystery when it premiered last week. Called Capel Green after a field situated between the RAF Woodbridge Airfield and the medieval Butley Priory in Suffolk, where the story is set, it recreates the action seen through the eyes of a U.S. airman who claims he witnessed it. As a keen ufologist who has closely followed the Rendlesham story for decades, I fear the truth won't be the close encounters tale everyone craves, but rather yet another example of the British and American governments using UFO conspiracy stories as a convenient cloak for their nefarious top-secret activities at the height of the Cold War, as confirmed last month in a bombshell report published by the Wall Street Journal. We are referencing the story we've talked about weeks ago, Pentagon getting caught creating extraterrestrial stories as a cover for Lockheed Martin technology being taken for joyrides in the sky, allegedly. I continue. Yet that will be cold comfort for those Suffolk residents who in 1980 had no idea how close they were sleeping to the weapons of Armageddon that Christmas night. The Capel Green film includes interviews with U.S. security police, some of whom have never spoken on camera before, plus a newly recruited U.S. airman, Larry Warren, just 19 at the time, who claims he had a front row seat to the whole happening. In the film, he describes how he was told to hand over his rifle and driven in a jeep to a clearing in the forest that was covered in a glowing mist. It was then, he says, that he saw a basketball-sized red light in the sky, followed by a blinding flash of light. It was then he saw a triangular-shaped machine object or craft on the ground, and most astonishingly of all, 3 non-human beings emerging from it. These beings, he said, were then greeted by a tall man he believed was the most senior officer at the NATO complex, U.S. Air Force Wing Commander, later Brigadier General Gordon Williams. According to Warren, footage of this incredible meeting was captured on film. The footage handed to the pilot of a F-15 jet and later flown to the U.S. Air Force HQ in Germany, never to be seen again, which is all very intriguing and understandably greeted with a huge amount of skepticism, like it is in this room right now. Because I love this story, but it's hard to think about this without the word sham in the entire title, Rendlesham. But who knows? This is one of the weirder UFO stories out there that's been floating around for years. It's kind of like the Roswell in the UK. Wing Commander Gordon Williams, it should be noted, has never publicly commented on Rendlesham, but in 2003 described Warren's claims as a flight of fancy. Whatever happened, the incident wasn't a one-off, and UFOs were seen around the base for at least 3 nights. On December 28, 1980, the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, led a team of airmen into the forest to investigate his colleague's strange report. As Halt made a running commentary of events on his handheld tape recorder, his men gasped as they spotted a pulsing red light that resembled a winking eye between the trees. Later, 3 star-like lights in the sky were seen low in the north and south, hovering until daybreak. This is why I was staring at the sky earlier. Halt claims one of these projected a pencil-thin beam of light into the weapons storage area of nearby RAF Bentwaters, like it was looking for something. That's a quote. In the film, U.S. security policeman Sergeant Steve Langero, who was assigned to protect the nuclear warheads at the Suffolk base, also claims to have seen a beam of light scanning the whole of the weapons storage area. Charles Holt's memo summarizing the Rendlesham sightings was sent to the British Ministry of Defense in January 1981 and became one of the most famous documents in the history of ufology when it was leaked to the media. As a teenage UFO enthusiast, this is the journalist writing, I clearly recall being gripped by the headline, UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official. And you can see we have the old newspaper article clipping showing that. Imagine seeing that in the morning. And that broke the Rendlesham Forest story in October 1983. To many ufologists, the Rendlesham incident offered the exciting possibility of a British Roswell right on our doorstep. Roswell, okay, we don't have to read that, guys. I don't want to take too much with this story, but I want to swerve with this to something else I think is interesting. But just a bit more. For those who want to believe, Rendlesham appeared to have everything Roswell had: impressive military witnesses, official documentation, and what appeared to be a determined government attempt at a cover-up. As an investigative journalist seeking answers, I used precursor to UK's Freedom of Information Act to persuade the MOD, Ministry of Defence, to release their own 150-page file on the case in 2001. Sadly, I found no smoking gun, although I did find a letter written by then Defense Minister Michael Heseltine shortly after the story broke, giving unequivocal assurance that there is not a grain of truth to in the allegation that there has been a cover-up about alleged UFO sightings. But remember, this was the 80s and the height of the Cold War, where truth could be subjective. The Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan a year earlier, and tensions were high in Eastern Europe. Not so many miles away at Greenham Common in Berkshire, the first tents were being pitched in a protest camp outside another American air base where cruise missiles were being stored. The protests would go on. I will skip this. So basically, they mentioned someone we talked about on this show a bit. Last summer, U.S. intelligence officer turned UFO whistleblower Luis Elizondo claimed in his explosive book, Imminent, that the Rendlesham incident was indeed linked to the secret stockpile of nuclear weapons at nearby RAF Bentwaters, now a Cold War museum. He said the beam described by multiple witnesses had hovered specifically over an underground bunker where the stash was held. He said the visit triggered a flash override that gave the U.S. President Jimmy Carter direct control of weapons in the event of a surprise attack. So I want to just pivot here. So it's like the headline's like new information. There's not a ton here except for the things we get through the FOIA. But what's interesting to me, first of all, Jimmy Carter's being mentioned. For those who haven't heard me talk about that before, Jimmy Carter was one of the few presidents who spoke openly while campaigning for governor of Georgia about wanting UFO disclosure. He had seen a UFO in Georgia. I believe it was above was it Knights of Columbus, some sort of building. And he saw an orb floating above the tree line. And it bothered him and everyone in that parking lot. So he started saying, I want disclosure. And when he became president, he never stopped talking about it. When he became president, this is all lore. There's nothing to confirm this, so take it with a grain of salt. The story goes, he went to Bush, this is old Bush, and who was running the CIA at the time, and said, let's release all the UFO stuff, and said no. There are lots of reports out there about that incident. It's hard to know what's true and what's not. Some of those reports say Carter was like stupefied by the response from Bush. Like it wasn't just like a simple no. It was like a absolutely not, and like a berating the president on you should never talk about it again. And Carter never did talk about it again until after his failed presidency. He wrote a lot of poetry, and in that some of that poetry he discusses aliens. And he's also he wrote a letter to the aliens in the Golden Voyager. When we talked about that on the show before, we sent the Golden Voyager record with the Voyager spacecraft, and in hopes that it might see an extraterrestrial with some coded material inside of it on how to understand humanity. So there's that aspect. The other thing that I think is odd about this story that's come out today, this is just from this morning in the Daily Mail, is they don't mention one of the people who was involved in the Rendlesham Forest incident. And why that is interesting to me is because that person's story links up with something we started this whole week talking about. So his name is John Burroughs. They don't bring him up at all. He was one of the people who claims to have been in the forest, seeing the object. They hear all this screaming. People who want to debunk the story say it could have been a certain type of deer that does scream. If you've never heard a deer scream, look it up. They do. Some of them do scream, and it's interesting. But they claim to have heard a lot of like human-like screaming in the woods, and it stopped as they approached the object. So this John Burroughs guy is one of a few of these guys who claim to have had health issues from their interaction with this craft. So that might remind some of you guys about what we've talked about with different whistleblowers, whether you want to believe them or not, who also claim to have had serious health issues when encountering these crafts. But the way it bookends to how we started this week, we talked about Area 51 on fire, the data masked medical records of these veterans from Area 51 who all have come together in this, they call it the Invisible Enemy Project, that have this strange illness that one man, David Crete, claims to have this strange illness at Area 51, altered his DNA, which gave his son, was born with a brain tumor. All these men have like grapefruit-sized tumors, a lot of weird cancers, and now there's this whole action trying to help them get help from the VA, because the VA will not give them any help because of their data masked records. But how it connects is David Crete said it was because of the ionized radiation that they got sick. So they worked on top secret operations out there in Area 51. The only one we know about, I think, is that they worked on one of the stealth bombers, but they can't talk about the rest yet. But they claim that it was ionized radiation that did that. And if you look into John Burroughs' story, some of the reports say he is sick from ionized radiation. Now, this could just be because they're near like super high-tech weapons areas. We talked about how all these missiles, and they called it Armageddon-like weaponry that was kept over there in Britain. And that could be the case. And Area 51 is where they did lots of testing with nuclear bombs. We've discussed that on the show. And that could have infected the soil, but it also could have been a lot of these things that Skunk Works, the division of Lockheed Martin, has worked on, experimented with. You might think about the story reread from SF Gate from early 2000 when they discussed burn pits at Area 51 that also made people allegedly super sick. So this idea of whether it's UFO or not, I don't know. And if you go and read that story of the Daily Mail, you'll see it kind of ends with the allusion to, we'll never know, obviously, but the story always changed. These stories all become a lore. It's a mythology, and people just keep adding to it. There's new evidence now. There's new letters from FOIAs that debunk, discredit, or give some favor to the things that these guys saw. My gut always says this is probably connected to some technology we don't know about, but the people behind the curtain of the military-industrial complex certainly know about. But, the fact that these guys are claiming to have been sick, and especially this John Burroughs character, who is not in that Daily Mail article, but you can look him up. There's a lot of weird aspects. There's another guy from the Rendlesham incident who claims to have touched a craft, and the story goes that he somehow a binary code was downloaded into his consciousness, and later on wrote it all down. You can go look up both points of view of this, because some people totally debunk it, and there's videos of him, kind of like writing it off, I guess, and other people say, well, he must have had something because they gave the binary code to some computer guy, and he said this is coordinates to places on Earth. It's like what I was saying last night with the reality buffet. You can find whatever you want to be true. All that, put it aside, they're certainly testing certain things, and we have many stories about some sort of craft, whether it's us or something, visiting weapons depots. And I think that is something that's happening. We just don't know what it is. My gut says it's us. Someone else might say it's us from the future. Someone else might say it's extraterrestrials. I don't know. But when you look at these stories, you start to see how they connect in terms of how these things make people sick. And there was that Tucker Carlson interview from a year ago. I forget who he was talking to, but that guest also claimed a lot of people, some of which have been killed, according to that source, by encountering these crafts that landed. There's also stories we've talked about with Russian soldiers encountering craft, and the craft turned them into stone. And these are all crazy stories, and it's impossible to verify. But I'm fascinated with all of them, why we even know about them, what the government says about them, thinking about the Pentagon creating extraterrestrial stories, thinking about all that stuff wrapped up and what it means. But, the thing I think we should just keep in mind is what is making these people sick? What are they making? We know this country has a long history of experimenting on its own people and doing things like we talked about just last night with Agent Orange during Vietnam, made by Monsanto. They made it to attack the enemy without any care to how that might affect our own soldiers, which clearly had a massive effect on them. You think about the Area 51 staffers who have all this invisible enemy. So that's the stuff that's I think there's something there to that aspect of the story. I don't know what it is, what they're around, what they've been working on. I would love to know more, but fascinating stuff. And I'll leave it at that. I'm curious what you guys think about the Rendlesham Forest incident. It's a 40 or 45-year-old story. There's a ton of different avenues with it. And like it said in the story, it is like the British Roswell. So I'm sure some of you guys out there have your own thoughts. And if you do, please do call in. Let us know what you think about that, what you think about this story today, all the different people involved. Because you can go, like I said, in many different directions with it. Some people write it off. Other people think this is direct evidence of something way more interesting. So that is that. And I guess we should take this time right now. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for being here once again. This is a call-in show for those who are just now joining us. The phone lines are open. We will get to you in about 10 or so minutes. If you have a story, it doesn't have to be connected to the Rendlesham Forest incident. If you've got another story about UFOs, some sort of strange encounter, give us a call. The link to call in is pinned in the chat on YouTube and Rumble, audio only, and we'd love to hear from you. And of course, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. You guys are amazing. Looking through the chat last night, you guys were cracking me up. We were dying up here. I love it. We appreciate you guys so much. But right before we went live, how could I not talk about Epstein with all the things going on? We have brand new Epstein stuff. So let's see. Where do we want to start with this, Brandon? I guess we'll just do it in a chronological order that happened today. We can do a little bit with the New York Times article. This is what prompted a lot of what we're seeing today. I'm not even going to read this whole thing because I want to get to you guys and your calls. But the New York Times earlier today put out this story. Epstein's estate includes book said to have note from Trump. The lawyer who represents victims of Jeffrey Epstein said he believed the estate would turn the book over to the authorities if asked. So there's that. I'll read some of it. A lawyer for hundreds of Jeffrey Epstein's victims said the disgraced financier's estate has a copy of a birthday book in which President Trump is reported to have signed a bawdy poem and drawing in honor of Mr. Epstein's then 50th birthday. I don't really believe that article. That note was written by him. That's just me. One thing I do find hilarious about this first paragraph and almost everywhere that writes about Epstein is a disgraced financier. I mean, can we just call him a pedophile? Human trafficker, child trafficker? Because like he was convicted of that. Why don't we go with that first? I wonder what that's about. The lawyer, Brad Edwards, made the comment in an interview on Wednesday night with the MSNBC host Lawrence O'Donnell. Mr. Edward also said he believes the estate would turn the book over to federal authorities if requested. I know the executors are in possession of this book, Mr. Edwards said. The birthday book, a compilation of messages from some of Mr. Epstein's associates or friends at the time, was compiled in 2003 by Ghislaine Maxwell, a former girlfriend and associate, for Mr. Epstein's 50th birthday, according to a report last week in the Wall Street Journal. One of the people who signed the book was Mr. Trump. Why don't they call him president? No respect with these journalists.
If you're not noticing the trend where nothing is called what it's supposed to be anymore,
it's
been around for a little bit.
Oh, I've never seen a journalist withhold information or lie or just be super shady. So I saw the tweets first, or the Truth Social post from Trump, and I didn't know why he said it, and he said this in response to this article. So I saw this right before it went live. President Trump had this from Truth Social. The radical left Democrats are doing everything in their power to distract and obfuscate from our great 6 months of service to America, results of which many are saying is the best 6 months in presidential history. They have gone absolutely crazy and are playing another Russia hoax, but this time under the guise of what we will call the Jeffrey Epstein scam. As things are revealed, and I hope will take place quickly, you will see that it is yet another Democrat con job. Hopefully, the grand jury files will put an end to this hoax. Everyone should see what is there, but people who are innocent should not be hurt. Make America great again. What do you think he means by hoax and scam? This is what I keep asking people, because I think he's just not the best communicator at times. Sometimes he's the greatest, and other times he's really not good. So like people are walking away from this interpreting it as, is the whole thing a hoax? Is the whole thing a scam? I don't believe that to be the case. Like, we know this guy was convicted. Is he talking about how it's been inflated so much and everyone's talking about it that he sees as like this kind of like a blown up hoax that we shouldn't be worried about because there's not much there? I agree that we should see whatever's there. I don't want to see all the stuff with the children. That no one should have to see that. Definitely don't release any of that. People have called for it though. They're like, just blur it out. I'm like, don't even do that. That's just bad for this whole country's soul. But I would like to see it. And like I've said, I don't believe what the files are, honestly. Like, they've been through so many administrations' hands and so many people with power. It's hard to know what's going to be real or not.
It's basically the JFK video now.
Exactly. Right. We did the whole thing with the Zapruder film.
The whole thing is the same thing.
Exactly.
There's a chunk missing from it.
Yep, exactly.
There's all these coincidences.
Exactly.
And all of this shit that even when you pile it all up still doesn't make any sense to anybody.
Right. And we learned with that episode with, what was his name? Mark Javich. It was a great episode. We talked about how the Zapruder film was taken by the CIA. You can look it up and, it went to Rochester to, I think, Kodak or one of those old camera companies. But it was taken by the CIA. And, what we were talking about in that episode was that the Zapruder film we know is pretty much theater. Mm-hmm. And that there's probably obviously true aspects to it, but they believe that's
filtered fake. And doctored so many times though at this point that it's hard to know.
Really, it really is. So it's like I don't know what it's going to take for people to believe, one way or the other. I think unfortunately you're never going to believe one thing or the other. I know.
Well, have you seen there's kind of a newer idea going around that he was actually shot by the driver?
Yes.
I've been seeing this replicating in posts a lot more recently, and it's after. I mean, obviously, we watched the footage countless times in the studio.
I know.
From all different angles, and I don't see that.
I could see, honestly, anything being a possibility, and we can't even judge the video.
I can't rule anything out, obviously, because we still don't have conclusive proof, which is ridiculous. But, picture somebody firing a gun off right in front of you.
Right.
This is Jackie Kennedy sitting in the back.
Right.
This is also defeating the idea that Jackie Kennedy had something to do with it or was in on it, quote unquote.
Right.
Right. But somebody fires a gun in front of you and you're not expecting it, you're going to be like, what the fuck was that?
Seriously.
At least to a certain degree, you're going to get some kind of reaction.
Absolutely.
There was no reaction out of that other than, like, after the first time he's shot, you see her kind of look at him.
Yep.
And then the second one takes him and right to the head.
Yep.
And you see her, that's when she gets up, tries to go to the back.
Yep.
And supposedly she was chasing a piece of the president's skull.
Yeah.
And trying to stop that from going off. And then you see the Secret Service agent jump on the back and they get the hell out of there.
Yep.
It's hard for me to see that being a prevailing theory over the other ones that are already out there, because I just don't see it,
and like
in
the
interactions or the reactions of other people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we can get into that too.
Now, not to mention that the people on the lawn, and again, doctored footage, but look at the reactions of the people sitting on the other side of the motorcade. They're all looking out to the left all of a sudden because it's like they heard a shot ring out from that direction. Now, again, there could have been multiple angles, multiple shooters. We don't know.
Yep.
And hopefully one day we find out, but with the way that they're filtering shit, I just don't understand how we're ever going to get any more answers on that.
I really don't think we will.
So if this situation continues on down this road and just filter, we're only going to lose more evidence as we go along.
For sure.
So the time is now to out this shit and just get it over with. And I think Trump means exactly what he's saying. I think he's playing it as a hoax.
In terms of the crimes.
In terms of the entire thing.
Oh, man.
He's calling the whole thing a Democratic con job.
It does seem like
are the
he's
words
saying
that
the
he
whole
uses
thing.
in this tweet. Now, I think it's because he's trying to just get rid of it entirely, and for what reasons, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but it doesn't look good when, you're saying publicly, hey, I'm going to, elect me and I'll release this shit.
Yep.
And then, we elect you and you're like, what shit?
Oh, I want to speculate. I mean, because it's, and I get it. I still don't think he's guilty of anything.
No, and I'm not saying that either. It's a very fishy situation. And when the cover-ups are coming, because we've had this out of Pam Bondi, and Dan Bongino and everybody, like it's Cash Patel, like all of a sudden we just don't know what the hell is going on. And it's like, somebody said it on Tim's show when I was on the one night. He's like, this is like the best administration we're ever going to get when it comes to shit like this, and this happened. So it's hard to know, like, is somebody quieting everybody, or are all of these people involved and they're quieting themselves?
I like to think they're not. I mean, I'm very suspicious of Bondi, but I think they got in there and realized, when we did the culture war just the other day with Phil, Colonel Kurtz, we talked about Epstein. Kurtz brought up a movie. I think it's the movie Nixon, and there's a scene where Nixon speaks to like a protester, a young lady at the Lincoln Memorial, and she basically tells him, like, you have no control over this wild animal. She's calling the government this wild animal, and he walks away sort of stunned, being like, she's this young girl. I'm paraphrasing. It took her like not much time to realize this is a wild animal. I can't be tamed, and he's just now learning it as a president. And I have a feeling that could be what's going on when these guys get in office. They're like, this is just so insane. It's impossible to know. Everything's been obfuscated this whole time. They compartmentalize, they destroy, they create information. You don't know who is up to what. And then, in terms of, I've been thinking about the Epstein official story and how Osama bin Laden's death story. There's similar aspects, When Osama bin Laden was quote unquote killed with this quote unquote raid, everyone, I think most people believed, why would they lie about that? But there are massive reports out there from a journalist such as Cy Hirsch, who covered the Family Jewels article in the 70s. This guy broke open the stories that would lead to COINTELPRO, the Church Committee, major stories that this guy broke throughout his career. We don't have to, he is still a journalist, so keep that in mind, and I think his politics are probably terrible. But he's done some pretty interesting reporting over the years, and he reported that the Osama bin Laden killing story was mostly bogus. Now, he believes Osama was real, and he believes he was killed. But he believes the story around the raid is completely false, fabricated, and even the burial story of the burial at sea is fake to create a narrative. It's very interesting. He makes a very compelling argument. I highly recommend looking it up. This is like a 10-year-old story. He wrote it in the London Review of Books in 2015. I think it was 2015. And he goes into great detail about how Pakistan knew where Osama bin Laden was the whole time, and their intelligence community leaked, or I don't know if they leaked or someone reached out to our intelligence and said, hey, we got him here. If you want him, come and get him. And he was kind of in custody. I don't know what that means so much as it seemed like almost like an Epstein in Florida custody situation where you could just come and go as you please. But the idea of the firefight seems to be inconclusive at the least. But there's a lot of inconsistencies with that story. And what made me think about all this, connecting Osama bin Laden's death to Epstein, is this thing that's been said lately. Tim Dillon talked about it after having dinner with J.D. Vance. He said, Vance told him, all we have, the 10,000 hours of footage that Bondi referenced is just porn that he downloaded, which is, that's what clicked with me, like, oh, that's just like Osama bin Laden. All they said is all we have of his is like a ton of porn that he downloaded. And then if you read Cy Hirsch's story, it's about he had no Wi-Fi. It's very strange, very strange. I highly recommend looking into that story if you're interested. But this is like their MO.
It's just occurring to me that for this to have been conclusive and fully studied, Pam Bondi would have had to have sat there and watched 10,000 porn videos.
Oh, it's terrible. Right. Hopefully they had some AI do it. I hope she's not sitting there doing it. But
someone had to have reviewed that shit.
I know.
Like actually,
I'm sure they have.
Sat there and watched. You can't leave that up to AI.
Unfortunately, they do. I've interviewed some of these cops who had to investigate this stuff, and they have to, and that screws your soul, man. Really is damaging, evil stuff.
And the Osama thing is interesting because you mentioned a narrative getting spun there, and my brain immediately started to try to break down what those narratives could have possibly been. I mean, you make heroes out of the U.S. military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You end a decades-long search for one of the most known terrorists of all time, right? Yep. Under the Obama administration.
Yep.
And he gets to flick his cufflinks on the way back down the hallway after letting everybody know that he is an effective wartime president.
Exactly.
And, I mean...
That's exactly it.
It wraps up everything, makes Bush look like shit.
Yep.
I mean, I can see it.
I can too. It was, I think the killing of Osama bin Laden, I think that's the name of Cy Hirsch's book as well, but the killing of Osama bin Laden happened, I think, in the year leading up to Obama's re-election. And like you just said, it helped Obama look like a strong military leader. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting. If you go into Cy Hirsch's reporting on who wrote the speech, even for Obama to read about the killing, there was not supposed to be an announcement about the killing because then that gave up certain sources. I guess somehow in Pakistan that put people's lives in under threat. He says they actually discarded the body in the mountains, and there was no burial at sea. Interesting stuff, and his earlier reporting is wild. He has done some crazy stuff. And then he could be like, if you're as skeptical as I am about certain things, you'd be like, well, they're just feeding him information, right? How is he breaking all these stories? I don't know. He's still around. One day I'd love to talk to him because he has just been at the center of so many insane stories. It's so many that I'm like, how is this guy alive? Seriously. So it's interesting to think about when it comes to this stuff. We're talking about JFK. We're just getting those files, which really was nothing new. We talked about the Zapruder film. That's a hoax, I think. You can look up the interview with Mark Javich about that. Now we're talking about a hoax with Epstein. All the various the bits of information we're getting about it. It's real. It's the worst thing ever. It's a hoax. It's a con job. Where are we? Now we're going to arrest Obama, which I don't think is even going to happen. Not to take away from Russiagate, because I think that's insane stuff, that we had a former president and his administration spying on a campaign of what would be a future president and creating documents to steal dossier and all that stuff. Like, that is part of the deep state, invisible network of evil actors within our government to undermine our freedom, and they do it all the time. So it's like, it's part of Epstein, but I still think the Epstein story is up here. and Russiagate is just below it, but they're connected because this is like the strange web they weave as part of that wild animal that we talked about from the Nixon movie. So, and then just on top of that, before we get to callers, I just want to add this to the Epstein thing, and it's about what happened today. Ghislaine Maxwell answered every question from DOJ officials, lawyer says. This is in The Independent, just came out a little bit ago. Ghislaine Maxwell answered every single question put to her by Department of Justice officials. Her attorney has said, I wish I could have seen that happen. This lady's been in jail for a minute. I'm so curious how this conversation went down. David Oscar Marcus briefly spoke to reporters outside a Florida courthouse after the disgraced British socialite,
there's another one.
That's another weird way of putting it, was grilled during a meeting with Federal Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on Thursday. She's in jail for trafficking. Is that part of the hoax? I personally think she is guilty.
How is she still alive? The
Honestly,
way this goes, everyone gets silenced, right?
Unless this is part of the plan the whole time.
That's what I mean. Like, this isn't like, let's just leave, one stone unturned.
Right.
Like, what the hell? If you're going to go through all of this shit.
It's almost like, so much of this stuff seems so scripted to me. Like, I don't believe in the simulation theory, but I believe that we can call it the deep state has created the simulation that they put on top of actual reality, like a skin suit. And they puppeteer things. We talked about predictive programming,
like Joe Biden,
all the iterations of Joe Biden. And then it's like watching a series, like 24 or something. And they're like, okay, here's this character. She's really bad. We're going to put her away for a few seasons, and now she's back, and now she's on our side. Who knows? Maybe she's not on our side. I think this lady is not good, but I'd like to hear what she says. I don't trust much of what she says, and I'll get into that in a second. I just want to read a little more of this article. Marcus did not take questions, but said Maxwell never declined to answer and did not invoke any privilege during the meeting, which is in direct, it's very opposite of what we talked about last night with the Epstein deposition, where all he did was evoked his Fifth Amendment right to not answer. He invoked
the hell out of those.
Right. And I saw your clip that you talked about, and I guess that is true. And people are running with it, being like, see, he must be guilty because they asked him about Trump, right?
No, it just means he couldn't talk about
it.
That's the other side of that, is it doesn't necessarily implicate anything, and that's the other problem. Is I wish it did, but it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's just I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
That's big time. So she did not invoke any privilege. Prior to the meeting, he said the team was looking forward to a productive day. Blanche did not address media following the meeting. The Deputy Attorney General later posted on X saying, today, I met with Ghislaine Maxwell, and I will continue my interview of her tomorrow. The Department of Justice will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend, met with Blanche at the U.S. Attorney General's office, which is located inside Tallahassee's federal courthouse in Florida. Maxwell is currently being held at the Florida Correctional Institution, Tallahassee, where she is serving a 20-year sentence for her role in a scheme to abuse minors, technically trafficking. Why did I put it like that? Blanche had announced Tuesday that he had contacted Maxwell's attorney to pursue any potential new leads as Trump's MAGA base continues to blast the administration over its handling of the so-called Epstein files. But that announcement caused a stir among Democrats, with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer writing on X, under no circumstances should anyone from Trump's DOJ be allowed to privately interview Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, honestly, it's going to be tough to trust anybody.
Anybody at all should be allowed to privately interview this.
It should happen publicly.
Like this, they should have cameras in every goddamn corner.
I totally agree.
Backup generators for the backup generators. Like, no bullshit this time. Dude, if this is all we've got left,
I totally agree.
We can't let any of this trail run cold, unfortunately. So
100% with you on that.
And I mean,
so the reason I don't trust anything she says, beyond just like why she's in jail, is like I've said before on the show, her father was Robert Maxwell. This dude has a very shady history. For sure, some sort of asset of Mossad, probably not Mossad, but like Mossad adjacent, got caught up in the whole Promise scandal. Talked about that a week or two ago. The stolen spyware that Mossad was involved in. Robert Maxwell wound up dead mysteriously. Most of his children think it was just suicide. But Ghislaine thinks it was the Mossad. I believe that's what she said, is that she believes the Mossad took him out. It's very interesting. She was also, this is what he was on his yacht when he had somehow got off the yacht and was found floating in the waters. That yacht was called Lady Ghislaine. She was kind of the favorite kid after a while of, I think, I don't want to say abuse. I don't really know, but I guess there was some sort of neglect between her and her parents. She was born at a time when one of her older brothers had some major horrible accident, some sort of accident that incapacitated him. And from what I'm reading from different reports, depending on who you look at, they kind of maybe neglected her because of it. But anyway, she grew up to become like his confidant, it appears, and that when he was found dead, she was the one who went to the yacht and kind of cleaned things up. I don't know what that means. In my mind, it means she went and procured documents, shredded papers, perhaps. Who knows? But her father introduced her to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. The whole thing's weird. I think Jeffrey Epstein is a cutout for the CIA and probably most intelligence agencies. Mossad, CIA, the Five Eyes in general. His whole thing is just weird to me. And you know how I get too wacky with it in terms of, I guess too conspiratorial, but I do think the government does create people. I'm not saying he was not a flesh and blood. Well, I think he's alive, so I should speak in present tense. I'm not saying he isn't flesh and blood, just that they create an identity to then use as a vessel to infiltrate every institution. From the Harvard math department, like we talked about yesterday with Epstein, his obsession with gravity, to Hollywood, other science, and politics. He was all over the place. He found his way into everything, Bed Bath & Beyond, and just because I think it's crazy, Robert Maxwell did own 51% of MTV for a while, and Pergamon Press, which was involved.
No wonder it sucks now.
Yeah, right? It's so weird. He was like a Murdoch character.
I used to be able to watch music videos. You remember that?
Those were the days.
Kurt Loder with the MTV News Brief.
Those were the days. Those were the days. I think he sold his half in maybe 1990. So we got the MTV without Maxwell. But it's just the places that these people were reaching into, Maxwell and Epstein, it's just bizarre stuff. And that's why I will not trust what Ghislaine says. She's some sort of operative, but I want to know what she says. Like you're saying, I want to see it all. Like none of this should happen behind closed doors. Let's just get this shit
over with already. Like, yep. I mean,
because her body language, like all this stuff matters. I think when you're talking about one of the most sinister acts in recent American history, we need to see how she's saying it. Like just reading a transcript isn't going to cut it, And also, I don't trust a transcript. Honestly, I don't trust anyone to do.
I'm not trusting anyone in this situation at all. Like either side. At this point, I'm skeptical of everybody, which I usually am anyway. You guys all know this, but
you should be. We know it's a uniparty.
I encourage everybody to try to keep an open mind with this situation and to do the same. Don't take anything, without triple checking and even then reconsider, because
100%.
This is just nutty shit.
It's wild stuff, but we should go to callers. If we've got some people lined up, maybe it's time we hear from you guys. If you want to talk about anything we've talked about today already, let us know. Or if you've got a story about anything strange you've encountered, we want to hear about it. So let's do it.
All right. So I got a couple more people to get to catch up from the week. Calls that we missed. I see a couple people still here. So let's get to them first, and then we will bring on some new people.
Awesome.
Let's go to Chase. Chase, you're on the show, but you got no mic. There it is. Can you hear us?
Are we downloading binary code? What is going on?
I don't know. I don't know if he knows he's in here.
Chase.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. We can hear
man?
you.
What's up?
Chilling, man. How are you?
Greetings from Montana.
Sweet. Beautiful Montana. How you doing?
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty excited that you guys brought up the Rendlesham incident, because I've always been really fascinated with that.
Awesome.
And it actually ties in a little bit to what I wanted to talk about, which is not anything really having to do with that, but it does have to do with UFOs and a few other things that you guys have been talking about.
Cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and dox myself because it's sort of a necessity for this whole story. So my claim to fame is that I'm one of the guys who was involved with the Chinese spy balloon incident a couple of years ago. I was one of the first 2 photographers to take a picture of that.
No way.
I was the one got my attention.
So I'm the one who's credited with spotting it. And so I wanted to call and just kind of talk about something that I never really brought up in interviews and the press surrounding that. And it was an odd thing that happened a couple of nights before that whole incident. And I know you guys were talking about dreams a little bit earlier this week. And so 2 nights before the spy balloon incident occurred, I had a dream, and I'm really interested in UFOs. And I've got a friend who is also really interested, and he says he's seen one. He's a pastor here in Billings, Montana, really good friend of mine. And I had this dream, and it was just a really odd but very vivid dream in which I and my buddy were in a group of people at night, and we were watching the skies looking for UFOs. That was the whole dream, was just we're staring at the sky looking for UFOs. And towards the end of the dream, out of the corner of my eye, I catch sight of a like classic TR-3B flying black triangle UFO. You know, one of the ones with the big light in the middle and then 3 lights at each point of the triangle. And it's moving fast, and I get my phone out in the dream and I get a video of it, and dream ends. So a couple of days later, of course, I'm at work, and I'm looking out my window of my cubicle, and I had been watching, I'd been looking at the news because I used to work for the newspaper here in town in Billings. And I noticed that our airport was shut down. Like they couldn't fly in or out of it. And I was like, this is really odd. There was just a brief story on there about that. And so I'd been kind of looking out because my window faced the airport here in Billings. And I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Billings, Montana, but our airport sits on top of these cliffs that are several hundred feet high. So you can see the airport from all around town. And so I was just glancing up because I thought, you know, maybe there's a military exercise or something going on. And out of the corner of my eye, I spotted what turned out to be this Chinese spy balloon.
What did it look like to you at the time? Did it look like a balloon?
No, not at all. In fact, the balloon was not something that crossed my mind at all, because the way it was moving, it was so slow that it appeared to be stationary. Like it didn't look like it was moving. And I think most of us are familiar with like what a hot air balloon acts like when it's flying across the sky. In fact, we have a hot air balloon rally going on here in town right now. And I saw one of those today, and I was thinking about this spy balloon incident because I was just like, you know, you can see a hot air balloon physically moving across the sky. It's not fast, but you can tell that it's moving. But the spy balloon, I couldn't tell it was moving at all. It looked like a celestial body. In fact, I think when I first described it 2 years ago, I described it as looking like a small moon. The funny thing about it was it looked like more of a crescent shape. And the reason for that I sort of later realized was because the sun was shining on it, and because it's semi-transparent, the membrane of the balloon, the sun was shining hot on one side of it, but it was coming through the balloon to the inside, and that wasn't quite as bright. So you could see a full circle, but it wasn't as bright everywhere. So that's sort of how I described it. And the reason I bring up the dream is because I'm not someone who necessarily like I'm not totally into premonitions and stuff like that, but it occurred to me just how odd it was that I had this dream, and in the dream, I spot a UFO, and like all of the details about the dream are the absolute like inverse of how the whole thing transpired, right? I'm in a group at night. I see a black triangle in the night sky. It's in my right field of view, whereas the balloon was in my left field of view. I saw like the balloon itself wasn't a black triangle. It was a white sphere. So I went from like a pointed 2D thing to a white round, like as round as you can get object. It was just so odd to me that I had a dream like that. Seriously. So close to something like that. And you want to talk about the inverted world, like that's like, it was an absolute inverse of exactly how things went down.
That's so bizarre. So bizarre. Do you have dreams like that often that you remember, or about anything weird?
Not at all. I mean, I've had one other dream that I can say felt to me like what I might consider a premonition. Right before my grandfather died. And my grandfather passed away just a few months before that balloon incident. And his health had been declining. And I had a really vivid dream where I was at my grandparents' house, and they had kind of a screened in back porch. And the reason I describe it that way is just because the dream was so vivid. I remember seeing the screen and everything. And in the dream, I was just looking out into their backyard, and a huge barn owl came down and landed on their backyard.
Whoa.
And I just remember waking up and just like knowing that my grandpa didn't have much time left. Like I don't know what it was that clicked with me, but I was like, that dream was bizarre. It had an owl, which in some cultures, owls, I'm sure you guys are probably aware, but if you're not, owls are considered sort of harbingers of death in some cultures. And so I don't know why, but I woke up and I was like, yeah, my grandpa's not going to be around much longer. And sure enough, it was just a few more days.
So both these, that's crazy. Both these dreams, you woke up, you remembered them, you were thinking about them, and then the event in its own way transpired.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that the UFO dream, like it's hard for me. I'm a very open-minded, skeptical person. Like I want to believe that there's more to this life. I'm a Christ believer. I want to get that out there. So I absolutely believe in a higher power. I believe in Christ. Great. But that's come after almost 40 years of life experience,
don't I know?
Yeah, but I absolutely feel like there's just more to life than like the concrete and the stuff that we deal with every day, that there's more out there that we can't see. And that's why, like, when I had this dream and when this crazy event transpired, like I never thought that I was going to be part of an event that people would still be talking about like 2 years
I wrote
later.
a story. I wrote a story about that when it happened. Because for those who don't remember, this Chinese spy balloon was downed by a missile. I think like a $2 million missile. And I reference this quite a bit because when we had the drone invasion of the end of January last year, we weren't shooting anything down, but we chose to shoot this down. We're pulling up right now on the screen for people to see this image from above. But you took photos of this. When you saw it, would you pull your phone out and you'd go outside? You're doing it from your window?
So I just took my phone out, but I'm actually a photojournalist. That's what I have my degree in. I don't work as a photojournalist today, but like I said, I used to work for the Billings Gazette, the newspaper here. And the first person I called after I spotted it was the photo editor here. His name's Larry Mayer. He's a great photographer. And I knew he was going to have a big telephoto lens with him. And so he pulled over. He was just getting out of his car. I told him to look up and told him where this thing was. He got his photo. I sped home from work as fast as I could to get my camera with my big telephoto lens, which is actually exactly the same model of lens, oddly enough. And I went out in my driveway, and he and I both shot photos. So if you've seen any of the early photos of the spy balloon, chances are you've either seen my photo or Larry's, because those were the two that were kind of being shared around.
So this thing was in the air for that long of time in your area for you to drive home, get your stuff together, and photograph it.
And
I mean, I should say, like, I only work a few minutes away from my home.
But still, I mean, that's still. Does it say who took this shot?
It says that this was taken by Billings, Montana resident Chase Doak.
Yep, that's me.
That's wild, dude.
So I think this is the picture that he is referring to, folks.
That is wild. Was there any sort of, like, were a lot of people staring at the sky while this was happening?
To be honest, I don't even know. It's amazing to me. Like, Billings isn't a small town; it's the biggest city in Montana, and I think our metro area is about 185,000, 190,000, and it was floating over for quite some time. Like, there were people in the next town over who got just phone video of it, and I think they were the first ones to kind of spot it. And Larry Mayer, the other photographer, he learned that he actually knew that there had been military aircraft in the vicinity before he knew that the balloon existed, because he saw contrails in a racetrack pattern, what's called a racetrack pattern, which is what they use in times of war when they're refueling and doing that kind of thing.
Wow.
in a military context. So what we later found out was that the Air Force wanted to shoot this thing down over the Beartooth Mountains, which are just kind of southwest of Billings. But there have been kind of conflicting reports about why they didn't do it. One was that they claimed that they didn't want to shoot it down, have it fall on people's heads or something like that.
Yeah.
The other, though, that we were told, Larry, and through his source, who I don't know, is that our jets could not get to the altitude that the balloon was at that time.
Okay.
Because when I spotted it, it was between 10 and 11 miles up in the sky.
Wow.
So it was way, way up there. And I mean, if you can imagine, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Disney World, like to Epcot, but
yeah.
Spaceship Earth, the big round thing at Epcot, that is smaller than what they say the spy balloon was. Like, I've heard that the spy balloon was 200 feet wide.
Wow. I did not realize it was that big.
Yeah. And imagine that kind of thing flying at 60,000 feet above your head.
That's crazy.
And that's part of the reason I mistook it for like a celestial body.
Right.
In fact, there was a comet flying near Earth that day, and I knew it wasn't a comet, but I had to cross off all of my possibilities except balloon. Balloon did not go through my head at all. But I was like there's actually a video that you may be able to find out there. It was the first one I shot, where I'm on the phone with Larry Mayer, and I'm like, this couldn't be the comet, right? Like, there's no way. Like, both of us have seen comets. We knew it wasn't, but I had to say, is there any chance?
Right, of course.
So,
man, that is wild. After the publication of the articles with you in it, were you visited by anybody with questions?
Yeah, oddly enough, the day that we found out that it was a Chinese spy balloon, I had an endoscopy done that day. It was bizarre, but
Yikes.
So I came home because I wasn't going to work for the rest of the day because I'd been, under anesthesia. And I woke up. My mom drove me to my house because I needed somebody to drive me. And I just got into bed and was ready to just throw the TV on and take a nap. And Larry called me and he said, "Hey, you'll never guess what that thing yesterday was. It was a Chinese spy balloon." And within minutes, I started getting calls from all kinds of news outlets. But the day after that, I went back to work, and within a few minutes of getting to work, I was getting calls again. So I asked my boss if I could go home, and he was like, yeah, that's cool. And I got to my house, and I was pulling into my driveway, and there's a black SUV outside. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my time with the feds, I guess.
The men in black.
Like it had like out of state plates. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just play it as coolly as I can. Drove into my garage, went into my house, and just waited for them to knock on my front door. And I come up to my front door, and I opened it, and it was 2 reporters from Chicago.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. As far as you know.
Yeah. I never had anybody from the military or the government ever reach out to me.
That's wild. I mean, it appears like it was a Chinese balloon, a spy balloon. I mean, these photos, they look like a spy balloon, and I think it was shot over South Carolina eventually, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So it went away.
Like right off the.
Yeah, they shot it out. They shot it down over the water, I believe.
It made it across the country.
Like it was by the Atlantic somewhere. Yeah,
that is crazy, man. What an awesome story. I really appreciate you calling in and sharing it.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to bring something that was a little bit more than just talking about the balloon, because I've talked about that so much. But I did want to just bring up the dream and just
love it.
Yeah. Love you guys' show. Crazy. I don't want to monopolize anything.
No, you're good, man. You did. It was amazing. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Incredible. Now I know there's a dream connected to this. That's crazy.
Well, holy shit. I wasn't expecting that for the first call.
Nope. Last night's first caller was a possible origin story of the bat that Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off of. And tonight we have the photographer of the Chinese spy balloon that was eventually blown up over South Carolina with a $2 million missile. And that missile is crazy. If you guys look it up when you're sitting at home on Wikipedia, it's a crazy missile. A lot of money. And I always wondered, why didn't we shoot down any of those drones over Jersey? Probably because they belong to us. Palantir drones. Raytheon drones. Lockheed Martin drones.
That's nuts. That just happened.
Yeah.
So anybody that didn't follow the story when it did happen, while it was identified to be a Chinese spy balloon, they said that the CPU on the satellite, whatever the hell was hanging from the balloon, was never actually activated. So it was not able to send any information back to whoever put it up in the air.
Interesting. How did they know that after blowing it up with a giant missile?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming they took it back to Langley or wherever the hell they take these things.
It to Quantico.
Gave it the old once over, and I don't know. One easy way to say, hey, we got this under control is tell them it didn't transmit shit.
Right. Yeah. Thankfully, it was not turned on. Built by China.
So I hope that's the case. I mean, I don't know what the hell else they would have seen of value flying from that side over to the other side with it. I mean, who knows what they could have picked up with it? People's information, cell phone signals. Shit like that. Eavesdropping on calls.
We know there's been, I think, at least 3 secret Chinese police stations in this country. One in California, one in New York City, and one in Nebraska. And I think there might be more. Those are the ones I remember. So, because they were looking into, I think, Chinese nationals who were here that the Chinese Communist Party wanted to spy on. So maybe that had something to do with it. Just looking up on people or looking into things we have underground. Who knows what they're trying to detect. I have a hard time believing it wasn't turned on. But I also have lots of things that were made in China that don't work right. So...
We have proof of that here.
All over the place. All over the place. But let's do another caller.
Yeah, let's.
That's going to be a hard one to top, guys. Photographer of the spy balloon. Incredible.
Let me see who else I got on here. Tiny was in this list. Let's get Tiny in here.
Nice.
if Tiny loads. We're having a tiny connection issue.
Tiny.
Yeah, there's been this weird ass lag randomly. It's not happening to everybody, but it's almost like the last time it was because somebody like left.
Right.
And it hung, trying to like process both, but
strange. Wasn't Starlink down today? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
A lot of people complain about Starlink being down.
Well, it's nice to know that it can go down.
SpaceX,
just in case if they ever activate the AI army.
Yeah, right. While we wait for Tiny, this is from today. SpaceX's Starlink hit by major outage. Complaints spiked on downdetector.com around noon, with 55,000 reports from around the globe. The satellite service says it's actively implementing a solution. The most recent update says SpaceX's VP of Starlink Engineering, Michael Nichols, says Starlink has now mostly recovered from the network outage, which lasted approximately 2.5 hours. It's a long time. Without elaborating, he blamed the disruption on a failure of key internal software devices that operate the core network. SpaceX plans to fully root the cause and the issue to prevent a repeat. Meanwhile, T-Mobile told PC Mag that the T satellite service is operating normally with no network impacts or outages. You might remember out there when X was turned off a month or two ago. It was because of fire at a data center somewhere in Idaho. Crazy stuff. But yeah, I saw a lot of people affected by that. Tiny having any luck?
Tiny has now multiplied 3 times. And there are 3 Tinies in here now.
3 Tinies?
2 of which we're trying to join.
Now is when we find out Tiny's got 2 clones.
I don't know what's going on in here tonight.
I like it.
Chinese spy balloons, multiple Tinies. I guess it's fitting going into the weekend that we should have such chaos. So, speaking of this weekend, well, we got a second.
That's right.
We are coming up on the first Culture War Live show. It's going to be at the DC Comedy Loft this Saturday, July 26th, I believe. Yeah. Tickets are still available, I believe, for it. Only $30. Come out. I will be on site hanging out. Come say what's up. And it should be a pretty fun one. We will be hanging out. Also, like, subscribe, follow, share. I know you guys see that like button. Don't be afraid to hit it. And I'm just waiting on this timeout to happen so we can try to bring somebody else in here because I don't know what's going on with Tiny, but
I'm reading comments.
This
is what I'm going to do now whenever we're waiting is just read the comments. I don't typically read comments while we're doing the show, but with some downtime, Cisco, where is it? Mecha Hitler hack, I guess behind the Starlink. Someone's Cap TV says solar flare, maybe.
You said that first one was from Cisco?
Yeah.
He's actually in here, I believe.
Oh, nice. Mecha Hitler hack.
Let's try to get Cisco on there. That's it. Tiny will try to come back to you, dude.
Tiny clones himself. Someone they're talking about him cloning himself, and Bobby Broadway said someone fed him after midnight. We're not there yet, but maybe Tiny did clone last night.
Cisco, your mic is muted. Are you here?
Hello.
Oh, hey guys!
What's
awesome to be able to talk to you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Well, calling you here from Chile, South America.
Incredible.
We're very sad about Hulk Hogan. I was a young kid. I was like 10 years old when I won like sweepstakes to see Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Incredible.
And man, I just really sad to see him go.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him when Trump got elected, so that's something. It's good memories, man.
Yeah, I was just talking about how we saw him after. Did he speak at that first rally after Trump was shot at, and he ripped off the shirt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
So I was like crying.
Yeah, I know. He was such an institution. You know, when you look at these people like an Ozzy or Hulk, they're like these institutions. They feel like they're immortal. You know, obviously we know they die, but it's like how I feel when I was thinking about my grandparents when I was a kid. You think like, man, these people, they're forever. They're always here, and it's hard to think about them not being here. But he was such a big part of me. I'm 40, so in the 90s, it was a huge part of my childhood. Now, before you get to your story, I just want to share one quick thing. I just got a message from a friend who said, "Where would we be as a country if the Hulkster hadn't stopped that turncoat Sergeant Slaughter and the Iraqis from invading the USA at WrestleMania 7? I shudder to think."
Yeah, a different timeline.
Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, shout out to Hulk Hogan and prayers to his family. But what's going on, man?
Yeah. I had an axe to grind as a Chilean.
Perfect.
Instead of my wife is nagging at me. He's like, "Come on, let it go." It's like I don't know. 2 weeks ago, you talked about this young man who was traveling from Chile to Antarctica. You remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I literally sent you guys like through X like a badge from the Antarctica Air Base. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe you missed it. If you saw your X, I put it up there. What? It's a badge from the actual military base.
Okay.
Of the Antarctica.
Okay.
Chilean Antarctica, because we have a little slice of it.
Okay.
And the fact that I'm going to be very quick about this. The guy said he was traveling from Chile to Argentina, and he lied about it, right? So if you lie in your flight plan and you go into a military base, what would normally happen is you get shut down. You can't have weapons in Antarctica, but he was in the dead of winter with a Cessna plane, a one engine, trying to land in Antarctica. That was like nuts. And the Chilean Air Force had to get their personnel out to like try to save the guy. Okay. So you painted it out as like, okay, I remember that guy that comes on here that there's a secret base from the Hitler. It's hilarious.
Yes.
Anyways,
Sergeant
well, I have 3 family members that have lived in that base. So none of them speak German, by the way.
So, that you know of.
Maybe we can rule that out. But I just wanted to. I'm really glad that I just really wanted to say this to you guys. And in terms of like story time, sort of things.
Yeah.
There's tons of things that I've seen in my life that are unknown. Like from my earliest in the 80s, right? Here in Chile. And my parents being in the Air Force, there's always been comments and it used to be hush hush about that, but then it became normalized that there's just shit. I'm sorry, things that we can't. My nieces. Well, all my family's in the Air Force, so. They always have stories like they've seen it and they say, okay, we can't talk about it. And the Chilean Air Force created like a section to register everything they've got. And there's so much stuff they can't just not identify. So it's not like these are prepared air pilots. And we've got F-16s here in Chile that we bought from you guys. And there's things that they can see when they're doing their training that they're like, they're now obliged to report it. That's a good thing, right? Now, before it was mocked or frowned upon, but now it's like, we got a bogey here, and they reported and registered. And actually, within the Chilean Air Force, they created a unit that is in charge of registering everything. And reporting it back to the president and our local intelligence officers.
That's great.
So that my opinion in regards to all of these things that we're seeing, and then this is because I don't want to hog the time, and I'm so happy that I finally got to get to you guys.
You're fine, man. Take your time.
But, man, you got a great show.
Thank you.
I think that personally we're seeing things. There's 2 possible explanations you guys say. One thing is that there's really advanced technology, most likely from you guys, that is being deployed and testing it to test the capabilities of foreign countries in terms of seeing how can you engage with it. If you can engage with it, okay, you got the upper hand. But there are other things like that's like the normal thing. Like what you see, there's this other guy with the balls around the plane disappearing, which was, I don't know, you saw that thing from
Ashton,
from Tim the Culture. Yeah, that was really interesting. I mean, that is creepy. But besides that, which is like taking technology that's way beyond what we know, there's this other thing which is in my personal opinion, demonic. Right? So when people get influenced, when people feel like abductions, when people do things, I don't know if I don't want to be very explicit, but when you saw that guy in Russia grabbing a child and throwing him to the ground, and then huddling in a corner, not knowing what he had done. Yeah, I think we're at a stage like with there's lots of demonic things going on, right? So I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but I think there's things that are going on beyond our comprehension, and we just have to trust in God that we'll get through this. But that's I won't say anymore, but I really appreciate the time you've given me. I hope to call back again. I have more stories.
Well, before you go, if you have a few minutes, I just want to ask you like a few things about if you've heard any of like details from the stories from the pilots that have been reported. Like, are they in the news or things you've heard through family of what they've seen?
No, normally my family members are pilots, F-16 pilots here in Chile. And they were doing like actually one plane fell down trying to avoid he thought it was going to be a near collision, and he messed up, like he thought he was going to die, and he pulled right, so he thought he was going to crash into something that wasn't. It was so fast that he thought it was in his face, and he pulled the lever and ejected, and the plane fell down, and he thought he was going to die. And the people on the ground had radar, so they didn't court-martial him because there was enough evidence to say, hey, shit, this pilot actually had an object crossing, which wasn't it was going beyond the normal speed. It was going straight on, and he decided to pull and recover. Of course, you know how much an F-16 costs. So he got court-martialed, but they said he got off because there was evidence that actually there was something they couldn't understand. It was the right protocol to do to save his life, to pull and get out, right? Wow. So we're a small country, and F-16 is a shit ton of money. But imagine that they say that was a close encounter, and we I'm telling you this probably. There's not a lot of people that are married to people who fly F-16 here in Chile, so I'm going to get into trouble. But so the fact is that these things happen, and sometimes they're near hit collisions. Like the video you showed the other day, the thing, I thought that was space stuff coming down, not a I don't know. Anyways, but there's things that in Chile, we register everything. We're very transparent about it. We're over this thing that, it's ridiculous. No, we say we can't control it. It's here, and we're going to be transparent about it. But and the thing is that there's something there. There's absolutely something there. And of course, never trust your government, like they say. But the fact is that I can tell you from really close, it's not firsthand, but people that literally were who have almost died. I've been with them in barbecues, and they almost lost their jobs over this stuff. And he didn't, because there was enough evidence to show that he wasn't guilty of it. Like he wasn't like freaking out of like, hey, I bailed out because of a balloon. No, there was actual radar confirmation that there was an object that was in collision course to his F-16. He had to pull out or die. It didn't crash with him, which was weird because it was actually in collision course. They said like it was coming straight for him and then like it changed course like in a fraction of a second. But he bailed. So
right.
There's stuff there's a lot of that stuff that's being hidden because it doesn't look good in the public eye. But just tell you a story that we are facing things that that are beyond our comprehension. Maybe it's military S-grade things that are being tested against. I'm saying against other countries, but you're testing it really against your prior technology. Maybe say, the F-16s we sold to Turkey. What if we use this technology? Will it be effective against them? Yeah, and then they go, oh, holy yes, we almost killed this Chilean pilot. Yeah, it works.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's where my gut is with a lot of this stuff too. That's crazy. Well, I really appreciate you calling in. Please do call back. I'd like to talk more about what's going on in Chile and stories you've got and heard about.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't hear from me again, I say I never want to commit suicide.
We heard you loud and clear, bud.
Everyone heard it just now. Well, thanks for calling in, man. Be safe out there.
Take care, man.
Later. Oh, man. Remember that fighter pilot that bailed in this country? Was it like a year or two ago? And it was an F-16 here, and it crashed, and he bailed, and everyone was like, why did that happen? That reminded me of that story.
What country was he from?
He was from here. It was here. It was like one of our pilots, and they were doing some training. I think it was down south. And he said he lost control or something, and he ejected. And the plane, they took like a day or two to find the plane in some field. That always was weird to me.
It's weird how we get the crash reports on routine exercises, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of these missions are classified, sure, but I'm sure some of them aren't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We only hear about the training exercise failures.
They're all training, don't you know? It's
all
just training.
No.
It's never
it's just training for the real thing, which will never happen.
Yep. And we have those other stories that came out recently about I think there were orbs basically attaching themselves to the fighter jets, not like physically attaching, but following them. So like any movement the jet made, the orbs or whatever it was just followed them, and the pilots were super freaked out by all that. It might not have been a new story. I think it was like them coming out with that story, and it happened years ago. But he's got a point. There's weird stuff out there.
Little mini beluga spheres that are
beluga spheres
chasing an F-16.
Oh man,
I don't know if they go that fast now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got really good remote controlled bogus spheres. One day we'll get Jamie Mawson on here. We'll grill him about three-fingered aliens and bogus spheres. Well, let's go to the next caller.
Yeah, well, and hey, if you're a three-fingered alien, it's still the same finger to flip people off. So that's kind of cool.
How many tinies are in there now? Has he multiplied more?
We have returned to a single tiny.
Oh wow! Okay, so all the clones have melded together.
Yes. The gremlins are all gone. It's just
thank God.
Gizmo is all that remains. We're gonna try this one more time and see if this works without him turning into multiple tinies again. Tiny, are you here?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
Man, I'm telling you, the feds are messing with me tonight, guys.
Yeah, you turned into three tinies at one point in my chat, man. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but tiny's multiplying.
Are we talking to the tiny we've talked to before, or is this a new one?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
We'll find out. Let's see.
That's what a clone would say.
We'll be the judge of this. You tell us a story, and we'll figure it out.
All right. So, I'll tell you what. We'll touch on Area 51 real quick in the brush fires, right?
Yes.
So, let's revisit Monday a little bit. I know I was a little early. It wasn't Monkey Day, but I called in on Monday, and the reason why I called in is because I think it's it might be pertinent if you pull up Frederick and Fort Detrick and the cancer clusters that occur around Frederick, Maryland, specifically around Fort Detrick. There's been a lot of nasty cancers. And actually along Shookstown Road around Frederick, I believe it was roughly 10 years ago, a remediation project took place because the United States military was burying all kinds of nasty shit out in that farmland that they owned, but was out along people's well water lines.
Of course it was. Of course it was. On purpose or by accident? What do you think?
Well, the government kind of does what the government wants to do. I mean, I can go back to stories in D.C. where they're finding live ordnance that are buried in Southeast because at one point in time there was a military base that was there where they tested ordnance, I believe during World War I, something along those lines. But there's still communities in D.C. where they dig up live ordnance. The military just kind of dumps stuff, buries it. Fort Ritchie is another prime example, right? So Fort Ritchie was closed down during the Clinton administration. There's a beautiful lake there, and if you actually read up on the history of Fort Ritchie, that lake actually has the largest southern freshwater ice pond or lake in the United States that provided ice to the South, pretty much, back in the olden days. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They used to call the rednecks down from the mountains. When the pond or the lake froze over, they cut out ice and they chip it down south for their drinks, right?
Yep.
Nowadays, that's only a catch and release lake because the United States military has dumped so much nasty stuff in there. And as a matter of fact, they have a difficult problem or time actually selling that property since the Clinton administration, because every time they open up a hole there, they find more nasty stuff. You know what I mean?
The lake glows.
It doesn't glow, but I definitely would not eat anything that came out of there, personally.
Yeah, you're reminding me of when I was in East Palestine after that train wreck. Everyone was telling me about, I think it was a lake an hour or so north of there that sometimes just catches fire because there's so much crap in it, and just the water just burns.
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, I can't remember the name of the town, but it's actually I believe it's an old coal mining town, if I'm not mistaken. I just read about it in firefighting books and magazines and stuff. I think it's Centrilla, Pennsylvania. That's just coming at the top of my head. But anyway, I believe the entire underground portion of that town is on fire, and the residents actually had to flee because it's still on fire.
Great.
The coal mine's caught on fire underground.
Wow. So it's just a continual fire.
Yeah.
Great.
But East Palestine is a beast all in itself. I'm not a hazmat guru, but what happened in East Palestine is kind of crazy if you ask me, but
oh, it's very crazy. They didn't have to blow that thing up. They could have done lots of other things. They could have buried it, but they chose to blow it up, and it destroyed the atmosphere.
Yes, agreed. And, what goes up must come down. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I'm not going to get too far into chemistry when it comes to fire, right? But smoke is a byproduct of incomplete combustion. Okay. So if you see smoke rising from a flame, that means whatever is on fire is not completely combusting, therefore is being released into the atmosphere in some way, shape, or form. Right?
Yep.
Now you tell me what kind of clouds were coming out of East Palestine after they lit all that on fire.
That's what I'm saying. This is one type of fake cloud. This stuff infects the cloud. It's like when you talk about Fukushima or the atomic bombs, or the forever chemicals that go up into the clouds. This is what I'm talking about. That doesn't go away. When I was talking about the weird chemical dust that settled over our cars and ground in West Virginia a few weeks after East Palestine, I mean, that's where it's coming from. So, thinking about Area 51 burning should be a little concerning to people.
Yeah, I don't disagree, man. I mean, and I will play a little devil's advocate here, right?
Yeah,
so we've seen a lot of wildland fires, especially throughout these wilderness areas in the Midwest, on the West Coast, right?
Yep.
And I can tell you that, and again, not because I never served in the military, I don't know anything necessarily about the military, but it is not uncommon for the military to set firing ranges on fire because of the ordnance that they set off, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, there's a lot of scrub brush, there's a lot of stuff that's not maintained. So, you know, it all could be coincidental, but again, what I will say is that when something is on fire around a military installation, you should really pay attention to it.
What do you think's going on there? Like, so the official story is that on July 4th, lightning struck, created a 40,000 acre wildfire that was getting close to Area 51. I think they have it 50% contained now. What was your thoughts on all that?
I mean, hey, look, man, that's plausible. You know what I'm saying? And so is an errant firework. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could name it. You could label it 1,000 different things, and nobody would know the difference because it's a restricted military base.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I don't trust the government as far as I can throw them. And I showed up 3 different times, and I'm a pretty big dude, clearly. So I don't trust the government. You know what I mean? I've seen behind the curtain enough to know that, like, they're rather shady individuals. So
a little bit.
It's concerning and it's alarming, and I 100% think that people need to pay attention. And I think that it would be important. So there are individuals out there that monitor the air. Just dudes that think it's a really cool thing to just monitor air quality, right? As a hobby. Right. I really think that maybe we need to start building networks of like-minded individuals who are actually double checking what the government is telling us.
That's a great idea.
I just think that, you know, hey, listen, man, this country was not built upon listening to what our organized government told us we needed to do. Right. And I think we've lost our way, man. And I'm not saying that, you know, I necessarily believe that the United States government is inherently bad. I mean, I do. But for the sake of argument, right, there's nothing wrong with having safeguards and people double checking what's going on. And we have the ability as just the citizenry of this country to be able to do so. Like, we need to check our government, man.
100%. I totally agree with you. And I also agree with the idea of the fires could just be natural when it comes to Area 51. The thing that I think is worrisome is what those fires could be burning, right? And how that will affect everyone else around that area and who knows how far. You know, I don't know if you heard us talk about those burn pits. There was I remember some people were reaching out saying they didn't believe that story because I forget how they put it, but it was like, you don't use diesel for something. I don't remember the full story, but the guy said he got sick from being around burn pits that were burning chemicals at Area 51. We happened to read that like a week before the news story with these guys and this invisible enemy. So maybe it was just a natural fire.
Well, the thing is they say if you really want it to burn, use diesel.
Is that what they said? Yeah.
So diesel burns hotter than anything else. It has a higher ignition point, but when it comes to fire, so gasoline, all right, so, man, I'm trying not to get too deep into the weeds, right? So when you ignite a flammable liquid, it's the vapors coming off of it, right? The ignition point of gasoline is much lower than what it is of diesel fuel, but diesel fuel burns, it burns more complete. The fuel itself does not, but the fire itself is more intense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So does that mean that if they use diesel, does it make it worse?
It's a little more suspicious than dumping gas on it and lighting it on fire. Well, like you really want it to burn.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. So for instance, okay, so let's say I came out to Tim Cass Media Group and I was going to teach you guys how to use fire extinguishers, right? And when I set up a burn barrel, I'm not going to use gasoline. I'm going to use diesel fuel because diesel fuel is going to burn longer and it's going to give me a better burn, right? Okay. The gasoline is going to give you a flash fire. It's going to be quick, fast, boom, and then the fire's out. If what is on fire isn't capable. Man, I don't know. I'm trying to explain this.
You're doing good.
The gasoline is going to provide you with a quick flash fire. Diesel fuel is going to burn longer and more sustained. So therefore, it's like when you're teaching class, right? You're not going to dump gasoline on the fire, because even though I hit it with a fire extinguisher, if I use gasoline, it's probably going to go out. If I'm using diesel fuel, I can hit it with a fire extinguisher 4 or 5 times through 4 or 5 different students, and the fire will rekindle itself. It'll reignite itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It seems a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
If you're not if you don't know what you're doing.
Correct. I mean, yes and no. Yes. I view gasoline as more dangerous because it's not as stable. But
okay.
But beyond that, you know what I mean? Like it is alarming. I'm not trying to detract from what you're saying, because you're 100% right. Again, anytime that the government is burning stuff, or stuff is burning around a government facility, it's something everybody should pay attention to.
Can you remind people maybe one of the instances where you showed up to Dietrich and it was weird?
Yeah, so I mean, there's only been one big fire that I was at Dietrich that was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And so this was at I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the National Cancer Research Association or whatever, institute, whatever. There's a whole lot of government organizations, specifically scientific type organizations, biological organizations that are housed on Fort Dietrich. NIDIA, Fauci's baby is there. The Cancer Research Center is there. And then Dietrich, the military itself, has all kinds of nasty shit there. My personal experience, one that I can attest to because I was there myself, was the Cancer Research Center. They were doing roofing on it at the time. They set the building on fire. It went to like 5 or 6 alarms. But, you know, nobody, at least me personally, didn't expect to walk in and see biohazard symbols on doors with rodents and rabbits and things like that. And it was very clearly expressed to us that we should not enter those rooms, right? I don't know why. You know what I mean? I was an Indian, bro, not a chief, you know, so I can't necessarily attest to why.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that through lore and through, I mean, dudes that I learned how to be a fireman from, I heard many different stories about Dietrich, specifically the 8 Ball building. And that was the building in which, this was back in the 70s, that burnt to the ground. At the direction of the military, there was a fire that started. It was one of their high-level laboratory buildings, where they had all kinds of nasty stuff. And the decision was made to pull everybody out, go defensive, allow it to burn to the ground, because the risk was much less to the greater community than extinguishing the fire and having an accidental release.
Crazy conversations to be having. Why do they even put these places near people?
Yeah, right?
There's a lot of people over there in Frederick. You know, I want to look up that stuff you were saying earlier about just the cancer surgery.
I actually did.
Did you bring it up, Brandon?
I've got it here.
That's scary.
Here's the thing. Hard to trust, obviously, always. But this is the official report from the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in Frederick County. This is dated October 3rd, 2011. Now, the testing and the surveys and whatnot that they did took place between 1992 and 2008. The investigation was prompted by community concerns about cancer incidents in Frederick County, particularly in the area around Fort Dietrich. The analysis consisted of blah, 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 cancer here, cancer there, basically is what they're saying. And at the end of it, they go over all the investigation did not find a consistent pattern of cancer diagnoses that would suggest clustering. Specifically, the investigation showed the following, and here's, more bullet points about what they found, but basically it all says, the increase in cancer rates for all cancers noted between 2001 and 2006 is unlikely to be related to environmental exposures in the Fort Detrick area. So they're basically saying you got cancer on your own.
Yep, that's their official story, and they're sticking to it.
And that's the official story of the Maryland
So,
Department
Brandon, if you look, you might want to check through the Frederick News Post. Look for remediation efforts along Shookstown Road, and Fort Detrick will be involved in that. That's Fort Detrick property. They actually put all kinds of tents up over top, just open field, where they were excavating because they found a bunch of 55-gallon drums that had been buried out there with all kinds of nasty stuff.
Man, you're reminding me of growing up along the Hudson River in New York, and when they realized we had what are those chemicals in the rivers? Not PCP. I forget what
PCBs.
PCBs, yeah.
Like PCP,
PCP would have been
Christ.
really crazy. That was more near the Bronx,
Yeah.
the PCP.
Hey,
no,
bro, I just swam in that river.
Man.
Yo, they decided in like 2006 maybe that they're gonna drag the waters to get rid of it, and I always thought that sounds insane because aren't you just gonna like spread it more if you're doing that?
So, it depends on whether or not it's heavier than water. It depends on what its specific gravity is. If it's heavier than water, then like oil, it'll rise to the top. You'll be able to skim it off the top.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. Makes it a little easier to catch.
Correct. Yeah.
I hope that was the case.
Go ahead.
I said I hope that was the case because the Hudson River used to be clear, and I never knew the Hudson River to be clear.
Yeah, well, the Potomac River, you actually used to have fish that you could eat out of it, but nowadays I wouldn't trust that.
Insane. That's insane that we've done that to these places. It's so sad.
Now, what's crazy is I've looked this up, and everything that I'm seeing on this basically just says that it's going to be closed, but it doesn't say why. Everything is very, very short.
Remediation story he's talking about?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's basically saying the same thing. Section of Shookstown's Road in Frederick will be closed while improvements are made to the road.
We'll look into that.
And apparently it was closed down for about 6 months.
I'll dig myself and I'll actually send it to you so you guys can see it. There's actually pictures and again, it could have been scrubbed. I mean, the DOD does wild things, you know what I mean? But 100%, there was tents. There was an access road. It was right off of Shookstown Road. So the county yard for fire apparatus and the sheriff's office and actually communications used to be right off Shookstown Road. The property that I'm speaking of was to the southwest of county yard off Shookstown Road, in Montague Lane. It would be right at the intersection of Montague and Shookstown Road. But regardless, I'm digging in the weeds on that. More so, what I wanted to call you about, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but you want to talk about demons and goblins in the government. Recently I had tagged you about a week ago about an officer named James Dotson. He's a corporal with Frederick City Police Department. I actually know this man personally. Okay. I wish I didn't. But Corporal Dodson has just recently been indicted on charges for the child stuff.
I did see this. Yeah. This is insane.
And so the most recent article that I put out or that I tagged you in actually is from Levi Trumbull, who's a local independent reporter here in Frederick. Levi has been in touch with whistleblowers from the Frederick City Police that said not only did Corporal Dodson have a very intimate relationship with the chief of police in Frederick, that they spent a lot of time together, and that he was actually accused of SA against one of the chief's male friends. Now, I'll let you guess what type of persuasion the chief is, whether he likes men or women. And I'll let you guess whether or not he's been marching in pride parades through downtown Frederick.
Oh, man.
And
kind of answers the first one a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I set you up for it. What I'm getting at is, man, there's a lot of stuff that's taking place in our local government, not just in the federal government, man. And maybe I should have prefaced all this with saying, I'll keep this YouTube friendly. I'm all for feet first rides at my amusement park of wood chippers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. Like I always say, I have a hard time wanting to take a life, but especially giving the government the ability to do it. But when it comes to this thing, this crime, these people need to be removed from society.
Yeah, man. I know there was a guy, I don't remember what gentleman was. He's a frequent caller as well. And he talked about he doesn't know about evil and blah, blah, blah. Bro, I've looked at pure evil in the eye, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've looked at individuals who have harmed children to an extent that it just, I couldn't even do it service trying to discuss it over this, right? And what I can tell you is that I'm a firm believer in the fact that evil, matter of fact, does exist in society, that people are born inherently evil, because I can't reconcile that a man of any type of faith would be able to harm such an innocent victim. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's people who pretend to be of the faith,
And I don't mean specifically of religious faith. I just mean of any faith beyond themselves.
Right.
Like beyond them believing that they are the end all be all. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think that's just inherently evil, man. And it really disgusts me because I spent a lot of time in this community, and I'm not a great dude, man. I'm not a hero. I was a backstep, knuckle dragon, shit talking fireman, bro. And it hasn't changed, except I'm just a whole lot more beat up than I used to be, right? It disgusts me that a place is just as beautiful as what Frederick used to be, has been so inundated with this disgustingness, man.
I totally agree. And unfortunately, it's not unique to Frederick. It's everywhere.
It's not, man. It's not. And it's like you feel it, man. I feel it here. I feel it.
It's such a shame. It's kind of like the human version of what we were just talking about with polluting everything. Destroying the rivers, burying chemicals, burning stuff we shouldn't be burning. That to the same degree, the evil has also populated the areas, and I can think of a number of stories about people who are hired to keep their community safe are the very monsters preying upon the innocent, and it's disgusting. Yes, sir.
Yep. And there's a special place for those kind of cats, man. Man, I really would like to be able to say that I'm strong enough in my faith to believe that they'll make it there on their own, but I sure as hell would enjoy helping them on along the way. You know what I mean? So.
Yep, I know, dude. It is an evil world out there, and we are just navigating it and pushing back against it and doing the best we can. But always good to hear from you, man. I appreciate all the insights to everything we discussed, especially I was thinking about you when we were talking about Area 51 on Monday. So I love hearing that perspective, and we'll talk again.
Absolutely, gentlemen. You guys have a great time. Appreciate the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, fellas.
Don't go cloning yourself again. We don't know how many Tinies are going to be in it. Sounded like the original Tiny. After talking to him, that's OG Tiny. I don't think it was another clone Tiny.
Sounded like, but can we believe that in this day and age?
Sounded like him. Did a pretty good job. Ooh-wee. It was reminding me of the chief of police in Long Island. I think it was Suffolk County. Two Suffolk references, different Suffolks tonight. The guy who was overseeing the Long Island serial killer case, who completely destroyed that case for years, and he was caught with all this crazy porn, sex toys. He beat up the kid who found it in his cop car. Somehow, years before all that, just before he was promoted, he was found in his cop car with a hooker. And then when he was a little boy, he was there in the woods when he saw other children kill a little boy and stuff rocks in that boy's mouth. And, he wasn't involved with that crime as far as we know, but he was a witness and he saw the whole thing. I can't imagine how that
sounds kind of like the movie Bad Cop.
I haven't seen that.
I think it was Harvey Keitel.
Oh, Harvey Keitel.
He's just awesome. A complete piece of shit.
Yeah.
I never was able to watch the movie all the way through because I was just like, this is ridiculous.
People thought he was a serial killer. They thought he was the guy because of how crazy his past is. And then he got out of jail for beating up that kid. And then he got arrested again for trying to get a male hooker in one of the parks out there. So, and that's just one of many crazy characters in that. But let's try to get to one more caller before we wrap it up for the week.
Yeah, let's see if we can do it. I got about 10 minutes left. Thank you once again to everyone who called this week. Stories have been awesome tonight. We appreciate it. We love you guys. Thanks to everyone hanging out on Rumble. We got a huge crowd on there right now, so thank you guys for watching. And we are going to get to one more caller, it looks like here. But again, I will write down everybody that we missed. As always, we will get to you next week if you call back. Do not worry. You will get your time on the show. So, who's going to be last is the question. Let's get... I got one more person in here that was on the original list. So let's get him in here for the time that we've got left. We are going to bring in the homie, Project Mayhem.
All right.
Hello, sir. You are on the show. Can you unmute your microphone?
How's that?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. What's going on?
Hey, how are you guys tonight?
Good. How are you?
We are just sitting out here just outside of Area 51, tracking the Janet airline flights coming out of Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah?
Having fun.
Awesome.
Listening to you guys.
Awesome. That's amazing. I feel like we're there.
Is it still on fire?
I'm far enough on the other side of the city that we don't really see anything from it. So, if it wasn't for you guys talking about it, I would have never known about it.
That's funny. That's funny and scary. Well, what's going on? What's going on?
Our reporter on the ground, live from Area 51, Project Mayhem. Welcome back to the show. Tell us what you know.
So I was, after I talked to you guys the other day, I was thinking about an experience that I had that I'd like to run past you guys and see what you guys think about it.
Cool.
Have either of you guys ever done sensory deprivation?
No.
Not with like the tank and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm one of those people that I need multiple things. Like even here, I'm sitting here listening to you playing video games because I need multiple sources of stimulus. But, I listened to Joe Rogan and, his experiences with his tank. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. See what I can do if it helps me to help me relax and meditate. So the first time I did it, I went in. You're only in there for like an hour. You can go longer, but they don't recommend it. But the first time I was fine. I was able to relax, best night's sleep. So a couple months later, I was having trouble sleeping, and I decided I'm going to go back. And this time, I decided to try to take an edible about 20 minutes before I went in.
Oh, boy.
I was dealing with some really bad anxiety, and, I figured, okay, this will just help me get to that point where I can relax.
Right.
I was in there. You get in the tank. The lights are all out. It's pitch black. Water is body temperature, and you're just floating. You don't know where the water starts on your body, and you don't know where the air starts. So you're just there, and there's nothing, no sound, no nothing. And most of the time I keep my eyes closed, but this time I decided to open my eyes and do it with my eyes open. I got a sense, I actually saw light, a purplish, like aura that, I know there was no light source in the tank with me, but there was light. And in the light, I could see shadows moving over my body. It looked like people were looking in at me, and moving around my head. It's kind of like when they talk about the aliens, when they, people get taken and they're, examining them. That's kind of what it felt like. But obviously it felt like something was watching me. Didn't feel evil, didn't feel malicious in any way. It just felt like it was curious about what I was doing. I've never heard anyone talk about it. That's why I wondered if you guys have ever experienced anything like that before.
Extreme darkness can have profound effects on the mind. So, I mean, and then you're saying you also took, what'd you say, shrooms?
No,
edible.
Yeah,
edible.
Marijuana.
Sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, that could definitely have had an effect on you. So, one way to see it is like it's just the mind playing tricks on you. But it could be that you just somehow opened a portal to some dark entities. It's kind of
evil entities.
You don't think they're evil?
They seem friendly.
Are they ever friendly?
Just curious of what was going on. They were just peering at me.
Did it affect you? Like when you got out, how did you feel?
I felt I felt normal, relaxed, and when you're in the tank, it's sucking out all the toxins in your body. So, like it really is a great experience to do. That memory has stuck in my mind because I can't explain it, and I've never felt it again.
The experience and the experience of them didn't affect you negatively afterwards. It was just like, how did it affect you?
It left me curious. Was I looking at something that wasn't there, or did I have a peek into another reality or something else outside of our reality?
I mean, you're also kind of I don't know if you felt vulnerable, but I feel like when you're in such extreme darkness, you do become vulnerable. It feels like, I don't know if I could take it. Those tanks are crazy to me.
It's supposed to be sensory deprivation, but it can quickly turn into sensory overload if you let it. It's about just being locked in your own head, and the second you get that anxious feeling and then just thinking about it too much and expounding upon it, your body will go into fight or flight eventually.
My brain would explode.
Yeah, you lose track of time. You never know how long you're in there. It could happen in the first 5 minutes, or it could happen, just as the lights are about to go on because your hour is up.
So I'll just say this, just because it ties into things we've talked about in the show before. The guy who invented the deprivation tank, as we know it today, is the same guy who gave acid to dolphins for NASA in Florida, John Lilly. So, that guy, if you guys missed that episode, you can go find that and what NASA was doing with dolphins and that weird love situation between the lady and a dolphin. So he was certainly on to things. It was invented for people, I think, by people who were very interested in what the mind can do when it's altered. I think the deprivation tank alone is a way to alter the mind. Like you're saying, you lose track of time. They're fascinating to me. My wife did one. She said it was very relaxing, but she is not as paranoid as I am. So, like, I don't even know how you could do it with an edible, But
as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh no!"
I know that was my first reaction.
Oh no!
It was just like a half one, just so I could, because I had so much running through my mind, and I knew, because I'd done it once before. I know what you have to do to get to that state where you can relax, or where I needed to get to that state to relax. So, yeah, it was probably not the smartest thing, but did you ever led to an experience.
Did you ever do it again?
I've been in the tank multiple times after, and I've again never had that type of experience, but I've also never taken an edible before I did it again. Right. So,
well, it's definitely a crazy experience. It reminds me of episode 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return, when the shadow guys emerge from the space-time, the riff in space-time, and it's like to me, I see it as a scary thing. You said they didn't seem scary, and that's great, but the shadow people are very, I don't know. I don't trust them. But hopefully they were good.
They didn't have hats on either. So.
Well, that's good. That's good. None of them had hats.
Again. It was not me.
Awesome. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one to end a night with shadow people. And I don't trust them. And even if they're nice, it's like when people say they have encounters with these aliens and they seem like they're nice and not doing anything mean. I'm still like, there's something about it. I'm like, just stay away from me. I don't know. I don't trust it. But I'm glad you got out and you're all good.
All right. Well, you guys have a great weekend and enjoy yourselves at the Timcast event this weekend.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have fun out there.
But
isn't that crazy? John Lilly created the deprivation tank. Neuroscientist, psychoanalyst, psychonaut, member of a group of counterculture thinkers that included Leary, Ram Dass, Werner Erhard, born on January 6th. But yeah, that's a whole other story. And for those, I forget what episode that was when we talked about the dolphin, but that was intense.
The dolphin that was getting old fashions from its trainer.
Yeah.
On Americans' tax dollars.
She wasn't even getting paid though. She chose to do it for free.
She was pro bono.
Oh,
no, another one. Boom.
Killing it.
I'm killing it this week.
Oh man. Well, that was a fun one, guys. I appreciate that. Brandon, let them know where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at Brando Inverted on X and on Insta. Thank you so much for hanging out this week. It's been a crazy one. Can't wait to get back next Monday and get into more of some crazy shit with you guys. Again, come out, hang out this Saturday, Culture War DC Comedy Club. And if I don't see you there, I will see you back here on Monday. Stay weird.
Thank you guys so much for making this week another amazing week of episodes. The callers, we love you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in, share your stories. Please, for those who we didn't get to yet, call back next week. We'll be back on Monday, 10 o'clock. Please keep liking, sharing, subscribing. Send this to your friends. Let them know we're here. Phone lines are open Monday through Thursday, 10 to 12 at midnight. And I hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next time. Later.